Hello everybody and welcome to episode 57 of the Let's Play world. I just want to start off by saying welcome to all of my new subscribers. I'm really glad that you found the channel and that you thought it was cool enough that you wanted to follow along. I really appreciate feedback and suggestions, so if you ever have anything, just throw it in the comments. I'm really good about reading through them, and I love viewer suggestions for builds and ideas and things like that. I want to start off with a quick update on the skeleton spawner that we found. It was right under the lighthouse over here. So what I've done is I blocked off this side just to keep things secure, and I kind of want to do something over here just so we don't get mobs sneaking around this way, and that way we'll have a secure entrance to the lighthouse. What I've done in here is I installed an elevator. So there's our down and there's our up. Before we go down the elevator, though, I just want to show you guys what it looks like from over here. This is where we... oh, this is annoying. This is where we found the skeleton spawner. It was coming down this way, and then we come around here, and over here. So the spawner is right there. You can see I've got just a nice little room, and a spawner right in the center, and some water flushing it this way. I left this open just so I could show you guys, so I'm going to seal this up. So, back up top, this is our up elevator, and this is our down. Down here, I just kind of hollowed this area out just to make it look a little bit nicer. Just kind of a mix of stone and cobble, and then as we get towards the end here, we get a little bit of an invasion of deep slate. Just a mix of all the different types of blocks there. And I don't really have any sort of collection system or anything. It's just a place where the skeletons get washed down, and then I can just manually kill them. Mainly I just wanted this for bone meal, so I can just, kill a bunch of skeletons, get some bones and things like that. So maybe at some point we will come up with some sort of mob crusher or some other sort of collection system, but for our purposes this is totally fine. Let's see if we can build a fence on this side just to make this a secure way to get to the skeleton farm. And there we have it. This looked a little bit open, so I just threw some freight in here, some hay and some barrels, things like that. Removed the fence that was along here. We're basically secure up this side, and I put in a lot of light, and then we're secure on this side, and again, a lot of light on this side. So we have a simple, protected way to get to our skeleton farm, and the villagers won't get mobbed by zombies. Next thing I want to do is come over here to our underwater dome. And you may remember a couple weeks ago I added a little bit to our support system here, and you can see it's finally all oxidized, and it looks much more substantial. Looks really cool, I think. And yeah, all of them except for this block have completely oxidized, so it looks really underwater, really aqua. I just really like this color palette, and I think it just looks perfect for an underwater location. Today I want to add another building to our village, but before we get into that, I want to share with you guys some planning I did on the city portion of our build. So as you know, we're building kind of in this location here, and these two blocks are going to be our village. And then we have this big long street, and down at this end, this is where I wanted to have our downtown with our skyscrapers and all that. And you'll notice I put some big red squares on the map. So I was looking online at other skyscraper builds and that sort of thing, and I quickly discovered that Minecraft has a little bit of a problem with scale. Now what do I mean by that? So in the world of Minecraft, a block, any block, is supposed to be 1 meter by 1 meter. 3 feet by 3 feet for all the Americans in the room. And that means I'm supposed to be about 6 feet tall or 2 meters. And in general, that lines up pretty well and things look pretty good and realistic. The problem is when things get either really small or really big. For example, most walls aren't 3 feet thick. And if I wanted there to be a different color in each of these rooms, then my wall would be 6 feet thick. That never happens. The chair that I sit in is 3 meters wide, or 9 feet wide. That never happens. And similarly, when we get into skyscrapers, if you convert it 1-to-1, Minecraft, the build limit just is not high enough to accommodate most actual skyscrapers. For example, the Empire State Building is 102 stories tall. That building, up to its roof, is 380 meters. The build height in Minecraft is only 256 blocks, so we can't get anywhere close to the actual height of the Empire State Building. And if I wanted the building to be 102 stories tall, even if each story was only 2 blocks tall just to accommodate the player, plus 1 block for the floor, that would be 306 blocks tall. So yeah, that's just not feasible in Minecraft. So when I was looking at some other players' builds of skyscrapers, there's one thing that's important, and it's whether or not you want it to be functional. If you actually want it to be a functional building where you have a core with the staircase in the middle and room for offices and all that, the building needs to be, between 40 and 50 blocks wide. Now this big square right here, that is 41 blocks across. And as you can see, if that was one building, it would be bigger than an entire block in my little village. And looking at that, there's just not enough room here for me to transition from a village to a downtown area. So what I started doing was looking at different sized squares. Most of these squares here are between 25 and 30. And this looked, while I was standing there, much better. And if I was to make these buildings between 150 and 250 blocks tall, that would sit in this sort of a build really, really well. So all this talk about scale and what's possible aside, let me show you what I'm actually going to do. So over there, we've got our village, and we're going to continue building that out. And then in between here and the village, we're going to have medium-sized buildings like businesses and apartment buildings, things like that. We will end up with some cross streets, so the build will go in each direction a little further. And then over here, this is where we're going to get into our downtown area, where we're going to have skyscrapers, that sort of thing. I've started to kind of map out where the cross streets are going to be and where buildings might land, that sort of thing. And I think I'm going to do 5 different skyscrapers. And here I've built just a little model of what it's going to look like. So this is the main drag here. So the village is going to be over here. And as we come up the main drag, I want there to be 1, 2, 3 cross streets. And then the ones that are andesite are going to be, some of the medium-sized buildings. And as we get closer to the downtown area, we'll have some pretty big buildings that are medium-sized. And then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big, tall skyscrapers. All of these are going to be between 100 and 250 blocks tall. This building I'm going to base on the Aon Center in Chicago. It's a pretty classic looking skyscraper that was built in the early 70s, and I just think this sort of look will translate really well into Minecraft. This building I'm going to base on the Willis Tower, used to be called the Sears Tower in Chicago. It's a really tall, imposing black glass structure, and it was the tallest building in the world for a really long time. This building is going to look very much like 432 Park Avenue. It's a very tall residential structure in New York City, and what's really striking about it is how narrow it is. It's really, really thin and really, really tall, and I think it'll contrast nicely with the other buildings. This building I'm going to loosely base on the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building in New York City. Both of these skyscrapers were built in the 1930s, and they have that kind of Art Deco look to them, so I want to do something that sort of captures that. And finally, this building I'm going to base on the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. This building is the newest one of all of them, and it's a very modern, very sleek skyscraper. It was designed by the same guy who did the Petronas Towers, so it has that sort of futuristic skyscraper look about it, and I think it's going to look really nice with the other buildings. And you may have noticed I was careful to use the words based on. I don't want to do exact copies or perfect replicas of these buildings. I just want to do something in the style of these buildings. And it's going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be really challenging, and it's going to involve a ton of resources, but I think it's going to be really fun and will be cool to watch. So that's that. I just wanted to let you guys in on some of my plans. All right, we don't see this guy very often. This is Damien. Oh, here he comes. Pretty fast. Well, we got another one. Now we get to put Damien to rest. So today in the village, I want to try to build the treehouse, which was suggested by Kyle Sessions. And I think we're going to skip ahead just a little bit to this corner, because I think this would be a great place to build, a nice big tree with a little treehouse in it. So I've cleared out a lot of the hill, as you can see, terraformed it just a little bit. And I think right here is where the tree is going to sit. And I imagine doing something kind of like a walnut tree, where it kind of, branches out pretty wide. And then we'll have just a little tree house up there, maybe with a couple of different platforms and that kind of thing. I haven't done a lot with custom trees, so it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, and we'll see how it turns out. There is our treehouse. This was much, much trickier than I had anticipated it would be. I started on the tree and tore it down about 3 times, and I'm pretty happy with it now. There's a little bit of massaging that I have left to do, and then the leaves were pretty tricky as well. It's surprising how picky our eyes are about what actually looks natural. So we have this big giant tree, and then we have a treehouse up there. And right now, I just have scaffolding to get up there. Once we find glowberries, I think we'll use those vines to light the tree up and to get up here. So we pop up here and see we've just got this kind of L-shaped platform. Got a little overlook over our village here. And this side is open and this side is open. Got a little bit of a roof and, some posts here. And then there's a ladder, and the ladder will take us up to just a tiny little platform. And the platform is all open air, and then, you know, view of the sky, things like that. So yeah, it looks really, really cool. I keep finding little weird spots where I want to add, you know, another leaf or, you know, take a leaf away, that sort of thing. So I'll keep looking at it and we'll keep playing with it. And once we get the glowberries in there, that will light a lot of things up and expose a lot of flaws. I went through and I replaced most of the spruce with the four-sided spruce just to make it look nice and even. So I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out pretty cool. I'll probably build some sort of path up to it, and then we might have, you know, some other just natural trees around it so that it's not just sitting there by itself. And then the buildings, you know, will come up to about here, and then the buildings will start about here. So it'll just be this treehouse amongst the village. It's a big tree. So we can see our terraforming coming along here, our first two buildings, and then the big, big treehouse. And that means Treehouse can come off the wall of tasks. We've already got Kyle up on our wall of fame here, but if you want to get your name up on the wall of fame, all you have to do is leave me a comment or make a build suggestion, and if I do it during an episode, I'll put your name up on the wall as well. And that's where we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had fun. Please like and subscribe if you want to follow along on the adventure, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.